So today we are joined by Anthony Ogogo. Anthony, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Thanks for having me, Phil.
You're very welcome. Thanks for taking the time to come on, because I know you're a very busy man at the moment, which we will undoubtedly get into why. But you're an international jet setter in some respects now. Would that be a fair comment?
Yeah, it sounds more glam than it is. I'm stuck in economy at the moment, so it's not quite business class or first class. But fingers crossed, one day.
Hey, look, you're getting there. I know a little bit about your story. I know a little bit about your kind of background, your history. So we'll get into that, and we'll let the listener sort of figure out what makes you tick. Because I find you're a fascinating person. You're a very hard worker. You're a grafter. You've had a lot of ups and downs throughout your career, and I think that, and relaying that across to other people is such a positive thing to do. And I think getting into your mindset as to how you've kept going through all these years. So let's start at the beginning. So for those of you that don't know Anthony, and you should, and some of you probably know him from Strictly Come Dancing, which was in 2015, wasn't it? 2015, Strictly. So he's been on Strictly, which makes it a big deal, right? I always used to say to a couple of my clients, you say, the day you've got an action figure or the day you're on Strictly, you've done something right. Have you got an action figure?
Not yet, but we'll
get into that, because that's pending, right?
In the works, yeah.
Action figures pending, and I want one of the first copies, and I want to sign one. Cool. So, boxing has kind of framed your life, for a long time. So when did you start boxing? Because I think boxing's an interesting one, because people tend to start boxing at a really early age. So when was the first time you put on a set of gloves and went to it?
I was 12, Phil. I mean, I don't come from a very typical boxing background. I grew up in a house full of women, mum, 4 sisters, no father figure around. And I was that like dickhead at school that was good at all the sports. I was like, I could do anything. As a kid growing up, I was good at 2 things. I was clever at school and I was good at sports. 2 things I really cared about. And then I played football for Norwich City. I was captain of my county. I swam to a national level. I was that idiot that, in year 5, we'd play badminton with the teacher, and I beat the teacher. But I started boxing when I was 12. Quite a funny story. If you don't mind, I'll tell it.
Yeah, go on.
So, as you remember, well, I know you're a northerner, mate, so I don't know if you play like rugby but every lunchtime at school, school football was life. I mean, it's like the most important thing in the world.
Where did you grow up at?
In Lowestoft, in Suffolk, East Anglia.
Suffolk, right.
So near Norwich, like Great Yarmouth kind of way. And I was every lunchtime, football was the thing. And I was good. And we played single cuppies. I was through to the final. And there's Adam Deacon and Aaron Cooper were 2 lads left in the semi-final, like battling it out to face me in the final. And then Adam was big, he was cool, he was good looking, all the girls fancied him, and he was good at football. Aaron was small, scrawny, a bit of a nerd. And we were all best friends, but Adam was the cool geezer. He had the ball, a couple of Cruyff turns, a couple of Maradona spins, took a shot. It came off Aaron's thigh and flew into the top corner, and Aaron scored. He's ran off, giving it the Alan Shearer arm up, celebrating. Adam had the ump. Adam goes over to him, and he shoves him. He goes flying. And Aaron, he's a nerd, he used to wear like a backwards cap and his backpack. He'd play football with his backpack on. We'd always leave it in the goal, but he wouldn't leave his body. So he goes tumbling over, and we were 12. So it was handbags, but Aaron gets up and says, "Don't do that to me." And Adam did it again. This time Adam, he was obviously embarrassed that he didn't go through, and he shoved him. And as Aaron's birthday coming up, and he shoved him, and his bag opened, and his birthday cards fell out, and his packed lunchbox fell out the bag. So Aaron's got up, put his stuff back in his bag, put his bag on, pushed Adam back, and was going, fight. So big huddle, go on, fight, Aaron and Adam, fight. Adam's lined up for a big hand. Aaron went, and he smashed him, right? And like 20 seconds later, Aaron, like the small little nerdy dude, had beat up Adam, the big tough guy. Adam's on the floor crying his eyes out. And I was like Aaron, how'd you learn to do that? And he said, I go boxing club. And I didn't even know there was a boxing club in town. I said, well, can I go? He went, yeah. He said, there's a Wednesday. He said, there's a beginner session on tonight. So I go to the advanced class now, but beginners is 6 till 7:30. So I didn't want to go by myself. So I go to Adam, who's on the floor crying still. The bell goes, going for lunch after lunch. I said, Adam, I said, like, Aaron only wins because he goes boxing club. Like, we should go tonight, get really good, and you can fight him again tomorrow. And he went, no, I don't know. I don't know. I was going, all the girls will fancy you again, because all the girls saw you got your ass kicked. He went, yeah. I said, yeah, they'll all fancy you. Went, yeah, all right then. So I've got my biked home, bike to Adams, gave him a seat, bike to the gym, stopped off at I was so excited to go, stopped off at a sports shop. I bought an orange gum shield for 50p. Like, I didn't even realize you had to like mold them. I just got a plastic bit of like
just wedged it
in my mouth, bike to the gym, got off, and I walked in the doors and I walked in. I thought, this is it. I didn't know anything. I didn't know if I was gonna be any good or not. I didn't
What was it, like an old school boxing gym?
Yeah, it was an old shitty little hall. It was cold. It was one of those places that even in the summer it was cold. It was dank. But I opened the door and the smell of boxing, the smell of sweat. And I didn't know who Muhammad Ali was. I knew the name, but I didn't really know who he was. First thing I walked in, a big yellow, and I had the poster in my bedroom. I bought it from W. Smith like the next week. So I love this poster. Big yellow poster of him. It's him in the Rumble in the Jungle one. Yeah. And I fell in love, and I've gone through and I was punching the bags, and like I said, I had no idea if I was going to be any good or not, but I knew that was me. That was me.
Wow, and obviously drawn to boxing for all the wrong reasons by all accounts. So it was chasing girls and being able to beat people up.
And people up. That's not boxing. That's what, like, you become a rock star to play in front of thousands of people and to get girls. You become a boxer to beat people up and get girls. It's what it is.
So we'll take the evolution and we'll ride with that evolution as to how that's all transpired. So I'm guessing that 12-year-old really in the scheme of boxing is actually quite late, right? Am I right in thinking that?
I think a lot of boxers generally box because their dads boxed or their uncle or their granddad boxed, so they're given boxing gloves when they're 5. As a present for Christmas. I never did. I started I think for me it was a great time to start because I'd swam since I was 5 years old. So from 5 years old, I was getting up 3 mornings a week before school, going to the swimming pool, up and down, swimming. And swimming it's boring as hell. It's the most boring sport in the world. But I loved it because I love to win. And that for me gave me my drive of winning. And the thing in swimming, like boxing, and why I'm way more suited to an individual sport than a team sport, and I'll come on to that in a moment if there's time, is if you swim and you lose, you're swimming, you breathe left, you breathe right, you see your opponents, like if they're ahead of you or not. So you have the instant feedback. And if you lose, it's not because the manager picked the wrong tactics or the goalkeeper wasn't paying attention on the corner. It's because he's just better than you. And you gotta wake up and train hard. And swimming taught me if you work hard, you get good at life. And that's something I've always carried on.
So we talk about this a lot. We talk about discipline, Human 24. We talk about discipline. We talk about what's, what these habits and behaviors and things like this, and things are instilled into you, right? So you were saying you're swimming from 5 and you used to go 3 times a week. So who instigated
3
all
mornings
that?
a week before school.
3 mornings a week.
Yeah, so we're in the evenings as well. So my mum, we grew up in a single, and my mum is people like have no idea, and I'm not a parent yet, so I don't know how difficult it is. But my mum raised all 5 of us on her own. She worked full time.
Mad. I can't even imagine what kind of challenge that would be.
And she didn't want us to hang. She always said to me, "You can't hang around on street corners and getting into trouble." And where I come from in Lowestoft, it's particularly when I grew up. When my dad went to Lowestoft and met my mum, he was the first black in the 70s. He was the first black person people there actually saw in real life. So it's a very, very prominently white area. My mum has always said to me, she went, 2 mixed race families in town, in about 80,000 people. So it's a small town, but it's not like it's not like a village, Mum always used to say, you can't get in trouble, because if you get in trouble, it's the black kid, it's the mixed race kid, and it's you or him. And it's so she didn't want us getting in trouble, and she drove my sister to gymnastics, me to swimming, me to boxing, me to football, blah 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 blah. And we were always doing stuff. And as I said,
and your sisters as well, so they were doing clubs and all manner of things. And wow,
really sporty, yeah. So so I mean, we didn't have a lot. I mean, we didn't have a dad growing up. We didn't have much, but I had an amazing. We were very poor growing up, but I had an amazing childhood because I remember whenever I was always playing sport and winning, and no, even now I love to win. So yeah, I wouldn't change my childhood for nothing. And although we went without a lot, you can't really miss what you've never had. And the things that I never had, I didn't miss because I never had it.
And I think you know, this is a continuity through pretty much everybody we talk to, is that there's a level of hardship there that actually is part of the forming of your character and who you are and your discipline and all those different things. So, you know, 3 mornings a week going out and swimming, you know, which is it's a self-driven thing, isn't it? It's you know, you get in a pool and it's your choice whether you're going to swim or whether you're not, whether you're going to swim hard or whether you're not going to swim hard. You know, at the end of the day, you know, a lot of kids go to pools just to kind of splash about and, you know, do whatever. So you're competing at swimming, obviously got very good at it. You know, you're clearly a talented athlete, right? You know, genetically, you know, physically, but also there's a massive mindset that overlays that, right? Because you can be as talented as you want. You know, for you to turn up 3 mornings a week and practice and do whatever you needed to do is, you know, adds to that. So people can always look at somebody like yourself and go, well, he was just a naturally talented kid. But ultimately, what you've got here is you've got a naturally talented kid, which again, you've kind of openly admitted to, that you were just that kid. You defined it as idiot. You said, oh, I was just that idiot kid. I'm like, well, no, there's nothing idiotic about it by the sound of it. You were a smart kid. You know, you were naturally talented, but also on top of that natural talent, you have that overlying principle of hard work, right? So swimming, you're working hard at a skill, you know, which obviously is carried over. So we get it. So at 12 years old, you're chasing girls and want to fight people, and you end up at this boxing club, which is fantastic, right? So age of 12, you've started boxing. Now, what year are we in here?
So it would have been 2001, I think.
Right, so 2001. So between 2001 and am I right in thinking, so 2004, you went to the Junior Olympic Games in Texas.
Yeah.
Brownsville, so in 3
Texas,
years.
Yeah.
So you've picked up a gum shield. You didn't even mold the damn thing, but you picked up a gum shield from wherever, Sports Direct, or if Sports Direct was around, then you know you picked
it was one of those. I remember it was one of those independent sports shops where you'd walk in and there's like fish and hook, rugby.
They sold literally everything, right? Yeah. You know, you go in them and they're like corners of lacrosse stuff and things like this. You're like, lacrosse, what is that? so in 3 years, you've reached Olympic level. So I'm guessing, and I am guessing here, is that this club that you're at, has this club got a pedigree? So are there some really good boxers coming out of this club? Because obviously boxing clubs are boxing clubs, and obviously the ones that have good boxers come out to them tend to have this pedigree where there's a route, and a better and an easier route because somebody's trailed that, you know, blazed that trail before you. Right?
Yeah.
So was there somebody there who'd done that? Is this how you got these opportunities?
1,000,000% the opposite. 1,000,000%. I come from Lowestoft, a small town in the arse end of nowhere. Lowestoft is the most, our little tagline for Lowestoft is the most easterly point in the UK, which basically means, so it's the furthest place east in the whole UK, which basically means it's a pain in the arse to get to. So no one ever goes there, and it's a pain in the arse to leave. So nobody ever leaves. So all my friends are still there, and they're living their lives there, and it's just a nice little place, nice little seaside town.
Like a small town mentality, right?
Yeah, people don't go. Like the clubs you're talking about, you've probably heard of Revered, ABC, any boxing movie, any British boxing movie, any British gangster movie that's ever done on TV. I watched the Guy Ritchie film, The Gentleman, the other day. They go to the Revered ABC, and they always do their boxing stuff there because it's the most famous gym boxing. You've got Salisbury in Liverpool, got Rotunda, got loads of famous boxing clubs in the UK. My little boxing club in AAA is the furthest away from that. So you mentioned earlier about, like, yes, I was like physically gifted in many aspects, but 100% the biggest driver for me was my mind and my mentality and my desire to be successful. And my desire, I saw my mum work her ass off her entire life, and there's no money at the end of the month. I used to see her cry and worry about money and bills, and she tried to hide it from us, but I was quite nosy, we'd see. And I thought, she's worked so hard, and how has she not got no money at the end of the month, end of the week? I didn't want that life. I wanted to buy a house and to be successful, and And I knew that people weren't going to give me a little like mixed race kid from Lowestoft of anything. If I wanted something, I was got to like work hard and take it.
Were you aware at that point that you were almost disadvantaged?
Good question. I was compared to my friends at school. Yeah, because I couldn't do all the things that they were doing because my mum can't take me there, so I can't go because my mum's taking my other sister.
Because she's juggling four kids, right?
Kids.
Five kids. Sorry, so 5 kids. She's running around like a taxi service, right? Getting them to all these clubs, keeping them busy, doing all these things. So ultimately, doing it alone. So you've been privy to this, and I think that is, you can see that now. There's elements here that I didn't know about you, but ultimately, you are straight away. You've got this huge battle on your hands because, irrespective of how much money or anything your mum made, 5 kids is 5 kids. Whatever way you cut it up, right? You could have a phenomenal job. Bringing up 5 kids is still a challenge. It doesn't, whatever way you cut that up. So at this point, you're up against it. You're in a boxing club, which now you're telling me there is no kind of, trail there already blazed. So you're that trailblazer. So where did this opportunity come in those 3 years? Because I'm familiar with sport, rugby, cricket, and all your conventional kind of UK sports, but boxing is something I'm not overly familiar with. I've got some friends who run boxing clubs and various other bits and pieces, but ultimately their channels, they have open channels, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? They've got channels into bigger clubs and they almost feed to these other clubs. So were you fed into another club or how did it work? So tell me about those 3 years.
So 3 years. So my first fight, I was 12, April, my 13th birthday. And I knocked the kid out in the second round, which never happens. As a 12-year-old, you can't punch for toffee because you're 12 and because you're a baby. And I knocked this kid out in the second round. He went to hospital that night. Then the next fight, I knocked him out again. From the third fight in London. And then the third fight, I knocked him out. My first 3 fights, 12 and 13 years old, knocked them all out, which never happens. And then to get me matched, I had to fight guys much older than me, much bigger than me, give a lot of weight away. Okay. So my first fight was 51 kilograms, 51.4 kilos. And then I remember...
and just to add some context there, what height are you here?
I'm 12, so knee high to a grasshopper. I don't know.
So you weren't particularly tall as a 12, because you know what it's like when you're 12. There's always that one kid who's 6'5", right?
Oh no, I wasn't.
Full-blown mustache and everything.
Yeah, no, I wasn't. Listen, it's a true story, right? I'm going to jump forwards a little bit. So a couple of years, 2005, I won the World Championships, and I was junior world champion in Liverpool.
Yep.
The reason why I'm saying this, I was 16 years old. So my first 3 fights, I fought a Turk, I fought an American, I fought a Ukrainian, 3 hard fights. Then each fight I won. I swear my life this is true. And you can see it on the videos. The referee does my arm up, I'll do this straight away because I haven't got armpit hair. I take me so I can't grow a beard here. I can grow a goatee all day long, but I can't grow this. I was so I was a late developer. And in the final, I was beat this Russian. I beat him 13-17. I was junior world champion. And the thought went through my head, do I do it or do I just go, I don't care, the world can see? And then I thought, oh, fuck it, the world can see. So it took me to become junior world champion for me to prove.
And it was all about the armpit hair.
The armpit hair, that's my first thought.
And I'm guessing at that point, there's probably boxers who probably shaved their armpit hair, right?
Yeah, but and shaved their beards. Like I remember a boxer got a Turk or an Estonian or something in some competition. I was 16, and then every morning you get a medical, so you can see a doctor medical. And I was boxing Estonian, and we're doing the old Evils thing, that one, and trying to like budge past all that bullshit. Doesn't mean no difference to the outcome of the fight. But when you're 16, you think it does. I can't stay away. If I stay away, I'm
YouTube footage now, though, right?
Pardon?
It makes good YouTube footage. There's a lot of videos on YouTube, the very viral ones where somebody comes up and gives it the all, and then the other guy knocks him out.
Yeah, all that stuff. And I went to the doctor, and he was next to me, the doctor. And then doctor said to him, "Oh, you must shave. You must go and have a shave because his stubble was too bristly, and you can't have stubble when you box in case you're going to get like an abrasion." And I didn't have even like the little pathetic little when you're 14 and get like little stuff. I didn't even have that. So, but anyway, go back to the thing. I was a kid. I was boxing. I did really well. We had to give away a lot of fight, so you can only give away 12 months as a junior boxer in age.
Right.
And we were secretly giving away 15, 18 months just to get me fights because I couldn't fight. I went into the national championships, the schoolboy championships. I won them. So when you the schoolboy championships, it's always they usually kind of do the draw. It's always like London versus Northwest. They separate until the final. So normally, and they go to
Are they the two kind of strong hubs of boxing?
Yeah,
in the UK?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So it'll be like Eastern County, like you win like your town, then Suffolk counties, then Eastern counties. Then it'll be like Eastern counties versus Western counties. They're two like weakest ones of the nation. Then we'll fight Eastern Western versus London. Then London always usually win. You might get one through, and then it's like the finals usually London London versus Northwest. It's always usually the finals that way. And then obviously the Northwest, they've gone through their regions. And then so I was boxing in the junior in the national championships. I was like the one lad from Eastern counties in like the London group versus like the Northwest. So won the scoreboard championships, and I was national champion. At this time, I was playing football for Norwich City concurrently. I just jacked in swimming because centre mid. Okay. I was the governor. I ran the show, middle of the park. So I was played for Norwich. I was captain of Suffolk, and then the day I jacked in football I won the national championship, 2 scoreboard championships. Then I won the NABCs, which is the British Championship. I beat Stuart Reed. This would have been 2003. I beat Stuart Reed in the final of the NABCs in Nottingham, in Retford, Nottinghamshire. I go back tomorrow like 3:00 in the morning, and that's a Friday night. On Saturday, we had a Suffolk versus Hertfordshire match in Ipswich, a home match for us. We had to be there at 10 a.m. Kickoff was at 12 noon. So I got back at 3 in the morning. It was a really hard fight. I won 4-2. And Stuart Reed was that kid. He was, I was much better boxer than him. That's why I won. But he was tough. He was rugged, and he tried to beat me up. And I was never the developed. I was always. I'm going off on different tangents now, but me and George Groves, we boxed for many years. Me and George Groves were the Young England team. I was the welterweight. He was middleweight. We were totally opposite. George Groves, he had armpit hair he had chest hair at 13, big, strong. He had that man strength as a kid. I wasn't. I had boy strength as a kid. So I got really good at boxing. So I had to outbox my opponent. So I'm technically a very good boxer. George wasn't the best boxer. He just used to maul people. And then I prefer being my way personally because I had the boxing skill. So when I grew into my man strength, as you call it in boxing, I already had the nous and the technique. Whereas George, he got to junior level, he used to beat everyone up, knock them all out. Got to senior level, now it's more even. Then he had to kind of learn how to box. The opposite way to me, kind of thing. But anyway, so the NABCs, I beat Stuart Reed in the final. I went to Ipswich. I was bruised. I was marked up. My uncle drove me because my cousin Danny was right back for the team. I've got down. I played Hertfordshire. Half time, we're losing 3-0. Went and I was the captain. Went back into the change rooms, and Mr. Dunnett, the manager, went ballistic at everyone. F this, see this, F this. And he's had a wide pop at me, and I was fuming because I was playing quite well. And I mentioned earlier about the goalkeeper having an off day, or the left back. We conceded our first goal because Grant, the left back, was marking the corner and the corner post, twiddling his bloody drawstring, and the geezer rose up and headed, and he had a huge pop at me. So I came out at halftime, face like thunder on me. And Uncle Mark said, "What's the matter?" I went, "Fucking the manager's had a white go at me." He said, because I was the captain, I got the brunt of it.
Yeah.
Second half, final score was 4-1. I scored our goal. So second half was 1-1. I scored our goal. Anyway, so during the second half, Mr. Dunnett my uncle told Mr. Dunnett the reason why I was having a bit of an off game, even though I thought I was probably playing the best in the team, was because the night before I become national champion. That's why my neck is marked, my face is a little bit marked. I'm a national boxer because I didn't really used to brag because it was my thing. Anyway, after the match, he said he apologized. To be fair to him, he said, "I had no idea you were a boxer." And the point I'm making was the night before I became British champion for the first time. I was British champion, and I felt like I was king of the world. Then about 8 hours later, I'm getting shouted at by a geography teacher who masquerades as a football manager on the weekend, calling me an F and a C. And I thought, nah, fuck this. I don't want to do this anymore. Boxing gave me so much more than football ever did because it was down to me. Like with win, lose or
Yeah,
draw.
it's like an
it's
individual
my
versus
thing.
you're accountable for yourself, right?
Exactly, 100%. So yeah, I can't think where I got to that, but anyway, so I won a few national titles. Then in 2004, I got picked to go to the Junior Olympics in Brownsville, Texas. At this point, I'd never left England before, never traveled before. Flew all the way to Brownsville, Texas, and I had 4 fights, won the gold medal, won the most outstanding boxer of the tournament awards. We had a great team that year. We had Luke Campbell was on the squad, George Groves was on the squad. Had some other couple of guys who were more like domestically well known. And yeah, and I was, and it was that. And if I'm being entirely honest, I remember I was on and up until that point, I just boxed, so I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed winning, and that gave me such a thrill. The buzz was just like nothing else. And it was on that plane, and I was 15 now, and I was flying home, and then me and Luke Campbell won the gold medals. And then obviously our coach told the pilot that we had 2 junior Olympic champions on the flight back to London, and the pilot over the intercom thing said, "Special congratulations to Luke Campbell and Anthony Ogogo, junior Olympic champions," and the whole plane give us a massive round of applause. And I was like, "This is unbelievable! This is unreal!" And then as that plane, I flew home thinking. At the time, I trained twice a week, Monday, Wednesday, because the gym was open twice a week.
Yep.
I'd run on the beach every day myself. I'd shadowbox myself. Only trained twice a week, and every time we had an England training camp in Crystal Palace, obviously I'd go to that. And I thought, like, if I do this properly, I could actually do this for a proper living. I could actually do this properly.
Yeah.
And I was away. I missed school. I missed work experience as a work experience speaker in year 10. Came back to school on the Monday. I was late, so I was jet lagged. I walk in, big, massive. They call it a big, massive assembly on the Monday morning. So I thought, something's happened. Some kid in our year's been hit by a bus or something bad. Like, you only call assemblies when something bad has happened, impromptu ones. I've walked in, my eyes are all squinty, all sleepy dusty. I walk in, and then everyone turns around. Mr. Beckenham, our year head, went, "Anthony Ogogo!" And I thought, "Oh, fuck, what have I done now? I've been here for 3 weeks." And then everyone's turned around, stood up, gave me a huge clap, and I thought, whoa! I felt like the Wolf of Wall Street. I was like, I'm the Don.
Amazing.
And I just thought, I getting this respect from my teachers and my peers. I thought, this is definitely what I want to do.
Yeah. And what age are you here?
15.
So you're 15. Wow. And that's kind of, for a guy, that's quite a sort of pivotal age as to, you're not really sure what you want to do, and you're trying to get respect from people and blah blah blah. And you're kind of growing up, and I'm guessing surrounded by 4 sisters and your mum, you're sort of trying to act the play the man at home, right, and do all that as well, right?
Yeah, well, I always knew. I told you, like, I walked in that gym at 12 years old, and it's not something that I just say. I genuinely knew that this was me. And I was a bit cocky, and I was a bit arrogant because I was good at stuff. And as I mentioned earlier, I said earlier, I was that idiot that beat teacher at badminton. I mean, I was a bit of an idiot growing up because everything I did, I was good at. I was clever at school. I was clever at sports. So I was a little bit cocky. I hold my hands up to that. I've been humbled a lot, in later years of my life. And where was I going with this story? I was going to say, oh yeah. So I walked in the gym at 12, and I just presumed I'd be good because I was good at football and sport and basketball, and thankfully I was good. But so I knew that's where I was going to be. I wasn't from 12 years old. I always knew I was going to be a boxer. I had no doubts. So yeah, I always knew. So it wasn't even a thing. My friends are going to college or they've got work experience. Like, my work experience just taking me. I did the Junior Olympics, my work experience, and that's the best thing I ever did because I always knew I was going to be a boxer. So it was.
So then there was kind of a bit of a gap, wasn't there? So 2005 was World Championships, right? And then 2010 was Commonwealth Games. So in between that, I'm guessing you're just training.
So do you know what? So sorry to butt in, Phil. It's so that gap, some big important things happened to me in that gap. Like, it doesn't really get mentioned. People kind of jump that to the Commonwealths. So 2006, I was in the ABA Championships. I was going to be the youngest person in the history of boxing to win the ABA Championships at welterweight. I was just turned 17, and they changed the rules. Like, you had to be 19 to be a senior in boxing and go in the ABAs. They changed the rules to let Amir Khan go to Athens Olympics in 2004 because he was that kid at 12 years old with a beard.
And ABA was Amateur Boxing Association, right? Just for the listeners that don't know.
Yeah,
so at this point, you're not, this isn't a career. This is amateur boxing, which facilitates you being able to fight in world championships, fight in the Commonwealth Games, fight in the Olympic Games, because it was a purely amateur sport at that point, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So basically, it's really prestigious. You used to have the ABA Championships, which was on BBC One back in the day. It's a really prestigious thing. ABA Championships, become national champion, and then if you're good enough, you get looked at by England, and then go Great Britain, and then you get sent away to these certain qualifiers and to do well. But yeah, ABA
and I'm right in thinking there's kind of the two different routes, isn't there? So there's the route which you went, which was you go through your amateur boxing stuff. You fight in the Commonwealth, you fight for Britain, you potentially get to the Olympics and do the Olympics stuff, and then you migrate into professional boxing, right? And then the other route is obviously people just go straight down the path of they get signed, they sign a professional contract, and then they're professional boxers, right?
Yeah.
So who's gone before you? So at this point, you've got Amir Khan as 2004.
Yeah. So Audley Harrison.
Audley went through that. Lennox was Commonwealth.
Lennox won the Olympics for Canada. In 1988. So yeah, I mean, but for me, mate, I'll be very honest. And I've said this a few times, but I'll be very honest. Like, I was never fussed about turning pro. I didn't really want to turn pro. For me, from 12, I'm getting tingles talking about it. So from 12 years old, like, I wanted to win the gold medal of the Olympic Games. That was my life's ambition. I wasn't fussed about turning pro. I didn't really want to turn pro. It's the Olympics for me. That's all I wanted to do. I would have swapped everything for an Olympic gold medal. I only did for reasons I'm sure we'll get on to later. But so in 2006,
I guess at that point, because it's such this pinnacle, and this is a discussion I've heard other Olympians talk about, and Olympians who've nailed gold medals, and then it's kind of that pinnacle where you reach it and you meet that point, and all of a sudden you're like, what next, right? And boxing obviously had a different path, right? You get to an Olympic gold or an Olympic medal, you've then got another option, right? You've got somewhere else to go, which is professional boxing, which is kind of, I think, where most people navigate to after that. So even though it's not fresh in your mind at this point, I'm not really bothered about professional boxing and blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, once that Olympic dream and that Olympic thing has happened, that's kind of the next route, isn't it? That most people would.
That is, but I'm the massive anomaly. If I'd have won a gold medal at the Olympic Games, it's hard because if Eddie Hearn or Golden Boy or Don King would have said, "Yeah, here's £10 million to turn pro," it'd be very hard to turn that down. But I'm pretty sure I can be confident in saying that had I won my Olympic, I'll talk about like it's my thing. It should have been mine. If I'd have won the Olympic gold medal, then I wouldn't have turned pro. I'd have retired from boxing there and then, and then moved on to something else in my life, because I've always wanted to do more than just boxing, and I wanted to have the gold medal. For me was everything. Like, that's what I yearned for. And how do you beat? I've never had money growing up, so I've never done things for money. I do things for the love of it and the passion of it. And as cheesy as that sounds, that is what drives me. I've had money, I've lost money, and I'm happiest when I've got a mission. I've had money, no mission. I've had no money with a mission. I'm happier, no money with a mission every day of the week. For me, had I won a gold medal at the Olympics, like, how do you get better? Stand on that podium, and I dreamt about it, and I still dream about it now. And how sad is that? On that podium with the Union Jack going up and God Save the Queen blaring out, tears streaming down my face, my one mission in life accomplished. It doesn't get better than that. I would have retired 100%. I would have retired and moved on and become like Forrest Gump and done something else in my life and embarked on a whole new career, because I'd left at the absolute pinnacle. You can't beat Olympic gold medal in your home country in London in front of your friends and family. That's, for me, that's it. Everything you want.
And then we'll get into this shortly, but there was some drastic turns and tribulations and things that happened, which I think is tantamount to, you've got this really interesting character. And, we've talked before, but we've never really talked at this level. And you've got this really interesting character where you've almost got there's this air of arrogance, but there's also this overlaying air of kind of humility about what's happened in your career and what's happened in your life. And obviously you're saying here about the money thing, and a lot of people listening, I think, will find it hard to kind of quantify in many respects, because ultimately, if, as you say, if Eddie Hearn came along, but Golden Boy and all the different promoters had sort of turned around to you and said, look, we're going to give you a life-changing sum of money here, which isn't just life-changing for you, is it? It's life-changing for your mum, your sisters, everybody, right? And it changes everyone's world. And obviously we can't remain on this focus that, financially everything has to be driven by money. But ultimately that is life-changing, and it changes the way that you have this outlook. And even though you haven't grown up with money, it's still a defining factor in most people's lives, right? Because you got to pay your bills and you got to do this, that, the other. It facilitates, right? So at this point, you're 2010. So we'll fast forward a little bit. So in between that kind of anomaly where a lot of people kind of don't talk about, do you think that's because that was amateur boxing at that point?
Yeah,
slightly less PR around it, slightly less publicity, and
yeah, 100%. For me, there were real big growth years, like huge. I learned a lot. Like in 2006, I was going to win. I was going to be the youngest, and this is on YouTube for people to watch. I was going to be the youngest person ever to win the welterweight title in the ABA title. And I went to Liverpool, and I was in the Lions Den. I outboxed Joe Selkirk. I schooled him, outboxed him. He threw me to the floor in round 3, punched me as hard as he possibly could in the back of my head, and I was fucked. I was out. He should have been disqualified from the fight, banned from boxing, sickening, punching the 17-year-old boy. He's a grown man, big, strong, real good fighter, really heavy-handed.
Yeah.
Punching back of the head. And I was out, and I went back to and this is the rest of the fight. I don't remember it. I don't remember. It's about 4 hours later in my hotel room. I've come round. I was gone, severely concussed. And then I've got up and I've sat in the corner, and my coach, John, said to me, they didn't even say anything to me because he was just going to say to the ref, because he hit me in the back of the head when the bell went. Going into fourth round, ref was going to obviously disqualify Selkirk. The bell's gone, and I'm boxing, and I'm on jelly legs, and he runs me, he pushes me over. I'm on the floor. Referee gives me a count. I get back up. I'm boxing. I'm pure instinct, jabbing, I'm hooking, I'm holding him because my legs aren't underneath me. Referee gives me a public warning, which means your opponent gets 2 extra points on the
score. Assuming that's for holding him right at this point. So you're literally keeping yourself up,
Yeah. So I have no clue what's going on.
Yeah.
And he pushed me off, and he hits me, and I kind of stumble into the ropes. Referee gives me a count, and I'm getting through the round. There's 3 seconds left. He comes in and he bundles me over. Doesn't punch me. He bundles me over again. I'm on the floor. I get up. Referee gives me a count again. Joe Selkirk's jumping around the ring. All the fans are going mad. Selkirk's won. Because the rule was, if you get 3 standing 8 counts in 1 round, it's a TKO. The fight's over. So the final score of that fight was 11 points to 3. 11-3 to me. I was schooling him. I was 11-0 up. I was 9-0 up after round 3 when he hit me in the back of the head. 9-0. Even when I was jelly legged and out of it, I was still winning. I still scored 2 points. He got a public warning, which he gets 2 points to his score. He landed 1 punch. In that last round, he landed 1 punch, and he's bundled me over twice. And the crooked bent referee, gave me 3 standing 8 counts, and he TKO'd me from the fight. I have no clue what's going on. I'm out of it. I have no clue. And I lost that fight. He goes on to win the ABA championships. And that knocked my confidence so bad, because I'd officially been stopped. I'd been concussed with a shot, even though it was an illegal shot at the back of the head. I'd been concussed, and that knocked me. And that's the first time in my life something went wrong for me, because everything else at that point, from a sporting context, went right. I was like Midas. Everything I touched went to gold, and that really fucked me up, physically, mentally. And then after that, we went to Poland, England versus Poland. I thought he was useless, this Polish geezer. The score was 8-all, and then he won on a count back. So I drew with him 8-all, and he won on a count back, because what I was doing, that's the first time I'd ever lost 2 fights on a spin also, because what I was doing, mentally, I was scared of getting hit, because in my head, I was 17, I was still a fragile young boy. I'd been stopped. I'd been cheated by the system, by the referee, by the whole thing. I boxed this fella, and I was scared of getting hit. So what I would do, this is so like counterintuitive, just so backwards. I'd punch him too far out of range. So I was scared if I get close to him, he's going to hit me and it's going to hurt me. My shin is fragile. So I'd punch him too far out of range, and I'd fall in and miss. But when you fall in and miss, then you get countered. So I was punching too far, so I was scared to get too close to him. when I'd miss, then I'd get whacked. So I was going to hit. So and it messed me up for a real while. Then 2008, and a couple of slow years. I used to win gold medal. I was doing well, but not as well as I should have done. That really stunted me. In 2008, I went to the ABAs again, and I won the ABAs. And the rule was, so there's three Olympic qualifiers, and the number one, Neil Perkins, went to the first Olympic qualifier. Number two, Billy Joe Saunders, went to the second Olympic qualifier. And I was going to go to the third Olympic qualifier if I won the ABAs. I won the ABAs in the semi-final. I had a slap lesion. I tore my labrum in my left shoulder, and I won the fight, and I won the final the next week. When my shoulder was bollocks, they said to me, "We're not going to send you now to the last qualifier. Billy Joe's going to go." He went, he qualified, and I was injured. And then they said to me, "You've got to get surgery on your shoulder." And at this point, I'm on the Great Britain team. I'm part of the GB squad. I had the surgery on the Monday. On the Wednesday, I was back home. Terry Edwards, who was the performance director of the GB squad, rang me up. I rang him. I've answered the phone. I went outside to talk to him. He said to me, "I spoke to a doctor. Surgery went well." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Doctor, you're not in the box for about a year." And I went, "Yeah, well, they'll tell you a year, but I'm sure I'll get back earlier." He went, "Don't bother. I'm taking you off the Great Britain team." His exact words were, "You're no good to me injured." And I was like, I'm a junior champion, junior world champion. I'm the best welterweight in the country. Even though I've had this traumatic experience, I got punched in the back of the head, and I lost the fight, and you didn't really support me through it. They actually invited Joe Selkirk to the Great Britain team, and I was like, "How can you invite this geezer to the squad?" He turned pro. He didn't come because I was better than him, even when I was concussed. How can you invite him to the squad when I've just schooled him? Come on, and he's cheated. And I learned a lot. Like, I learned then that life ain't fair, man. Life is not fair, and you can get punched in the back of the head, and you can lose the boxing match that you never should have lost. And I learned then, like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna sulk? You're gonna whinge about it? You're gonna get the fuck back up and fight, And that's what I've always done. Much bigger reasons in the past. So they kicked me off the squad in 2008, and I was off the GB squad, and I was working the bar, pulling pints for a $5 an hour just to pay for physio. And again, 18 months off the squad, that really hardened me, and I became a little bit bitter, but really pissed off, like even more driven to be successful. And then I got back on the GB squad 18 months later, and then 2010 is when it all really kind of like kicked off for me. And those 2.5 years from 2010 have shaped my life as it is now.
So we've had several sort of ups and downs, but all in all, everything kind of went right for you in many respects. And then all of a sudden there was this one incident that went wrong. And I would probably imagine as like a 17-year-old, a little bit naive to almost loss, right? Losing and things not going your way, right? Because by the sound of it, everything's been pretty much swimmingly going your way at this point. So you've had this knock, it's affected you mentally. So your approach to fighting has changed, and you seem to be driven by this almost like frustration or anger at what's happened at this point. So 2010 Commonwealth Games, 2012 Olympic Games. So even though they're incredible, right? Let's talk about your mindset, and I'm just conscious of time here because we could get into the Olympics and the Commonwealth, but ultimately you've defined that, and you've explained that these are these pinnacles that you're reaching, and probably I would imagine you've talked about a million times, right? But let's talk about what happened after that. So between 2012 Olympics, right? You then sustained an injury. You've had this injury that has basically been a life-defining moment rather than necessarily a career-defining moment.
But my age, you mean?
Yeah.
The eye injury. Yeah. I mean, mate, life-altering 100%. 100%.
So what happened here? So what year are we in here? So you've done 2012 Olympics, and what's happening after that? And what is your intent and your drive after that? And then where did things take a turn?
Yeah. So thanks for the opportunity to say that stuff in 2006 or the Joe Selkirk stuff, because oftentimes I don't get the opportunity to talk about it, and it's still very like raw and passionate for me. So I appreciate that. But yeah, the Commonwealth Games, Olympic Games. I mean, I won a bronze medal at the Olympics, and
which is phenomenal, right?
No, thank you. Yeah, mum was
You
very
know,
poorly going into the games, and I don't want to the time issue, but yeah, like, yeah. So in 2000, so moving on from the Olympic Games, that's quite well known. If you haven't, people listening to this haven't seen or heard me talk about that, I'd recommend you go and have a watch my
hey,
one
we'll
interview. So
jump
it's
back
quite
on
an
again, and we'll
inspiring
go
story.
through the Olympic and the
Yeah.
Commonwealth another time. But obviously,
Yeah.
there's some real defining moments here in your life that really we want to get into, because this is where this mindset of yours, and this is where this drive to continue to do something in life with the talent and the skills you've got, right? And you know, it's taken some really bizarre turns in many respects. Maybe not to the outsider a bizarre turn, but to me and the discussions we've had, certainly it took a different turn to probably what you expected, right?
Yeah.
And how did you get to that point? So 2012 Olympics, then what happened?
So I turned pro. Really unfortunate. I had many injuries in the first part of my career. I racked up 11 wins, 11 straight wins. I had my Achilles were really bad for a long time. I had different operations of my Achilles. So I was out for a whole year after my fight against Wayne Reed in 2014. I had an operation on my Achilles. It didn't work. The surgeon put an infection in both my Achilles. I had a full Achilles stripping after that with James Calder. So I was out for a whole year all told. My first fight back, I got Ruslan Shelev in Ukraine. Then I re-dislocated my shoulder in round 2. I got to fight the whole fight with one arm. I beat him, and I won every single round as well. Almost knocked him out, even with one arm.
Amazing.
But that's devastating for me because I was injured again. I've been out for a full year, and I was out for another period of time. I had this big surgery on my shoulder. They went in there and they done a load of stuff. They damaged a nerve. My arm withered away to the size of a pipe cleaner. Like, genuinely, it was, I couldn't even I've had 3 shoulder surgeries, and this is the most recent one. They did a bony block. So they put a bone in the way, so it's jammed in. I can't come out anymore. But by doing so, it damaged his nerve. My arm withered away. Kevin, who both our mutual friend Kevin, he saved my career there, and I was so down emotionally, physically, mentally. I was in a real bad place. He really kept me going. And then I got back. I rehab like a machine, like a monster. I had nerve damage in the thingy. I had to go and have like this impulse therapy to get the nerve firing again. And 10 months later, I was back in the ring. I fought Gary Hooper up in Glasgow, knocked him out. So my career thus far has been so stop, start.
Yeah.
Knocked out Hooper in round 2. I boxed a month later. Franny Radnic, Croatian champion, knocked him out at the end of round 1 at the O2. I fought again a month later. I fought Bronislav Cuban. I think he's like Estonian or something. I knocked him out in end of round 1. So I was back. I was finally back. People had been saying to me, I had all this ability, all this talent, but my body just couldn't handle it. And it used to really hurt my feelings because I'm so physically robust, mentally robust, more than anything. But my body was letting me down, and it was breaking, and probably sustained when I was back on the Great Britain team, which we'll talk about another time.
And you're only young at this point, right? Really?
I'm 26. I'm 27.
26, right? 27. So in the grand scheme, still pretty young.
And I was killing myself to make middleweight. I'd always done that, and that wasn't helping. My body wasn't repairing, and I train hard, man. I train really hard. Anybody on the Great Britain team, Lou Campbell, any Joshua, any Amir Khan, like if someone asked them who's the hardest person you train with, if they didn't say me, they're lying. And I used to bust my ass on running track every morning.
I will ask a couple of them, by the way.
You may make sure you do. Is if I don't say me, tell me, because I'm gonna have the answer. So
I'll get them on a call with you.
What I used to do, like a lot of them would toss it off on the run in the morning. Oh, do the old and pretend they're working hard. And there's me, proper action man, giving it some. Then in the weights gym, like late morning, they'd go, and I'd be like, I used to go, so middleweight and light heavyweights were together. I'd go in the heavyweight group, me, Joshua, Simon Vallily, we'd be in the big boy group. So I just want to push myself. Then the sparring session, I'd be tired by the spar, but I'd try my best in the spar. When those lads would toss it off and run in the weights gym, I'd be fresh for the spar. So they were playing the game. But I was like, look, I'm training hard to win medals at tournaments, not to look good in sparring, because sparring is just merely practice. Anyway, so I've been out for a long time. I've been back. I was now finally back. And I joined Golden Boy. And my first meeting with Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya's promotional company, the fight they wanted, was me versus Saul Alvarez, Canelo, probably the biggest boxer in the world at the moment. He was at that time middleweight champion. We'd been like lining this fight up for a long time. I had to win against Craig Cunningham in October 2016 for WBC international belt, which gives you a top 10 ranking with the WBC. As a world champion, you fight twice a year. You get a mandatory defense. You got to fight the number one contender to your belt, and a voluntary defense. You can fight anybody in the top 10. They're mandatory, voluntary, so on and so forth. He just had his mandatory in the September. I was fighting Cunningham in October, WBC belt. I was going to fight Canelo for the world middleweight title that May, Cinco de Mayo weekend, for all the marbles, minimum purse $5 million, and I'd become middleweight world champion because he boxed that night against somebody else, struggled. He was dead at the weight, ended up moving up the weight category next. I'd have boxed him. I believe I'd have become world champion. Yeah, I believe I'd have become world champ. I fought Craig Cunningham in 2016, and then unbeknownst to me at the time, I had a fracture in my eye socket, which was misdiagnosed. I was told the wrong treatment by a very reputable eye hospital in the UK. I saw the top consultant, spent top money before my fight, serious doctor, so they had a bit of problems in my eye. It wasn't bad, but it was like weird. I wanted to kind of get the clarification that I wouldn't get worse. They said to me, you've got a fracture in your eye socket, but it's been there for at least 2 years because we've seen a scan from 2014 and it was there.
Yeah.
It's not going to get any worse. So you know, carry on boxing. Perfect. I boxed this guy. I had one fracture in my eye socket before the fight. After the fight, I had 8 fractures in my eye socket.
Wow.
Eye socket was totally shattered. It wasn't an old fracture. It was a brand new fracture. I never should have been anywhere near the boxing ring. I had 22% vision in my left eye after the fight. I was fucked. My left eye was twisted in 30 degrees, sunk back 4 millimeters. I was in a really bad way. Never should have fought. And I was winning the fight. And then in the corner each round, I was boxing terribly. So I couldn't see. I didn't know I was getting hit until I was being hit. I had no... I was getting whacked by a man who I couldn't even see. I didn't even know where he was in terms of space. I was just getting whacked and whacked and whacked.
And obviously that's your leading eye, right? So your left eye, right?
Yeah. And I was left eye dominant, and it was a southpaw. And
yeah.
He's an okay, but he could not lace my gloves. Couldn't lace my gloves. And I should have banged him out. I would have banged him out. And even with 22% vision, I was winning the fight by 1 point. All I had to do is get through one more round, not have won the fight. That have made no difference to what happened in the outcome anyway, but my towel threw me. They threw the towel in round 8 because he was looking out for my health and safety, which is obviously his main job. And then that led me over the next 2.5 years to have 9 operations on my eye, to try to save my career. I spent £100,000 on 4 expensive surgeries in America, to try to get back in the ring. And let's say 100 grand. Like I would never earn that. I didn't even earn 100 grand in my career.
Yeah,
like that was
money that because you had to, right?
Yeah, I sold my car, remortgaged my house to go for this dream, and then after 2.5 years, the hardest 2.5 years of my life, I was forced to retire from boxing, and that breaks my heart still, man, because we've discussed this in the past, and you can't compare. And I said earlier, against when Joe Sokek smashed me in the back of the head, I learned then life ain't fair, and in life, you can be the best, you can be the hardest worker, and you can be the nicest person you can possibly be, which I tried to be every single day. I tried to work hard, I tried to be nice to everyone I meet and respectful. And sometimes you don't get what you deserve, what you think you deserve, and you don't. And I sit and watch Joshua, and I cannot watch boxing now because Joshua fights on Saturday, earned millions of pounds, and he's creating his legacy. And I'm so happy for him. So he's a nice dude. I like him. So happy for Tyson Fury. Happy for all these people, but I'd be lying if I didn't say this. I'd be more happy if I was doing it as well, because I know that I'm as good, if not better than that, And but it is what it is. I kind of, like you said, I've got a choice.
I think that's it. Kind of sums up what in very loosely what you've just said there. It is what it is, right? Is that opportunity is there. Opportunity sometimes passes us. Opportunity sometimes gets scuppered because something happens. Yeah, and I think there's no time like the time that we've had over the last year or so where people have realized that, hold on, you can be flying, then all of a sudden you can have your wings clipped very, very quickly, right? So in amongst all of this, and I know that you've we've talked about this, and I always feel that kind of, you know, little air of anger about it, which is normal, I think, you know, and the little bit of air of frustration. And obviously you're saying like you can't watch boxing and all these different things, but we've also discussed this next kind of chapter is that out of opportunity and out of opportunities that maybe slip through the net and haven't quite gone the way that they, you know, you maybe anticipated or hoped they would go. You've ended up in this place now, which is really interesting, right? So 2015, Strictly Come Dancing, massive career pinnacle, right? You know, and you know, Strictly's got to be a big thing for some people, right? So 2017, right? You were registered blind, so the listeners can just grasp the magnitude of this, right? After this injury in 2016 with a fractured eye socket. Now, 2019, so we fast forward a little bit. So you've gone through this whole, you know, retirement from boxing. Now, where did the next opportunity come from? So this interests me because I don't actually know. I don't know where this opportunity rose from.
Well, there's two stories to this. There's the real one, and there's the one I just say because it's easier to say. They're both true. So one isn't made up. They're both true. But essentially, so when I hurt my eye, I've done something called DDP yoga. So there's a famous wrestler back in the day called Diamond Dallas Page. He's created his yoga system because he once broke his back, and he had to basically rehab himself doing his yoga, and it's really good. So even before I hurt my eye, I've been doing DDP yoga for a long time because being a boxer, having the shoulders, having the back problems that I've had, I wanted to not be injured anymore. So I've done everything in my possibility, everything in my power to not get another injury. So I reached out to Dallas a couple years ago. Said, listen, mate, here's me. I'm a boxer, blah, blah, blah. I'd love to try your yoga. And he said to me, and he rang me up, and I've been a huge wrestling fan my entire life.
As you do. So are you a pro boxer at this point when you contacted him?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's not the normal response. Somebody doesn't drop Diamond Dallas Page a message and all of a sudden he phones you up, right?
Yeah.
Right. So again, opportunity driven by opportunity, right? So
exactly. Yeah. So I reached out to Dallas, and he said he obviously researched me, and he said, give me a number. He gave me a call. We were chatting. We've been friends. He gave me his program for free. Doing his program, it's really good. You know, the stuff works. It helped me become more supple. And it's like yoga, but it's like macho yoga. You don't feel a bit like you don't macho feel a bit yoga. Weird. Yeah, you feel a bit. You still feel like a man doing it.
You have to wear yoga pants.
You haven't got but it's a great workout. It helps me kind of like limber up somewhat before I train and stuff. So when I hurt my eye, he's a bit of a mentor, friend of mine, and I was like in touch with him all the time. When I was having surgeries in America, I'd go and stay at his house because he lives in Atlanta, and you know it's a big airport. You can fly anywhere from Atlanta. So I'd go and stay with him, and we'd work out together. And when I first met him, he said, "Look, mate," he said, "You could be a great wrestler. What do you think?" I was like, "Thank you, Dallas. I really appreciate it. I'm honored, but I'm on this journey. I'm a boxer, and I've got to become world champ. I've got to kind of see this journey to the end." And he said, "Oh, well, I wish you all the best, and I'll help you where I can." So I had these different surgeries, and one particular, I can't really say what happened now because I'll get in trouble, but I had one particular surgery, something really bad happened. And he's called me, and I had to stay in overnight during surgery. And he rang me. He said, "I'll go, because I was meant to go back to his house that night."
Yep.
He said, "What's happened?" And I explained what happened. And he said to me, "Look, bro," he said, "when are you going to fucking give up this dream? This dream, you've got no money left. You spent all your money. You've been away from your family all this time. Now, like, bad things happening during surgeries. Like, just give it up." And he said, "Look, I can get you in at WWE like that. My best friend, like, is one of the guys who works there." I said, "Dallas, thank you, but don't ever say it to me again. I'm so, when you're so driven on for something, and it's like my eyes were so bad, hence I had 9 surgeries on them to try to get back in the ring, that without no pun intended, I couldn't see it anymore. Like I couldn't see the dream anymore. I was so far away from the dream, I couldn't see it. And I needed everyone around me and all energy just to focus on getting back on that dream. I didn't want people saying, "Oh, look at that." I needed to be so focused. So don't fucking mention it again, Dallas. Seriously.
So do you think at this point this is a guy that's actually just been brutally honest with you, has seen it for what it is, and you know, obviously the challenge that you have, I think, with stuff like that, and again, maybe you've experienced this, is that you've got a lot of yes people around you, right? Is that you're so intent and driven about this dream that you're going, look, I've got to chase it, I've got to chase it. But you've got a lot of people probably that you respect massively around you who really probably want to tell you, look, it's maybe time now to move on. But you don't want to hear it. They don't want to say it. But he's relatively new in the fray. His new friend, his colleague, is someone who trusts you, and maybe he's a again, I don't know him, but maybe he's a brash American, and he's just to the point, right? And he's actually just been brutally honest with you and said, look, it's time to give up on this one and move on to the next one, right? And how do you take that now? Do you look back at what he said to you there and look at it in a slightly different light?
Yeah, he was looking out for me, because basically I had an issue with during surgery, and I had to and he was looking out for me, and he saw something in me, and he thought, like, you could be really big in this industry where you're not putting your life on the line every single time you go to the ring, where you're not having all these bad things happen to you. He was looking out for me, but I still maintained myself. I had to get to the end, and I had to, and there was still more to go. There's still more things could be done, more options in surgery that could be done, and I had to see that through. Whether I had to sell my car or remortgage my house, like I did, I had to get to the end. And when there was no more chances left, and I couldn't possibly roll the dice anymore, then it was like, I can't do this.
Almost like not want to accept it, right? You had to get to a point where you had to accept it. There was no other option, right?
Exactly. Because I couldn't live with myself. If I hadn't tried everything, if I hadn't tried everything, then I'd been that pang of regret. Oh, what if? But I know now there's no what if. So I did everything. There's not one aspect. Nobody
couldn't have done any more, right?
Did you try this? Yeah, I did everything. So he said. So I said, listen, mate. I said, just don't mention it to me again. Then the years gone by, 4 more surgeries gone by, and I had to retire. There was nothing left, and I rang him and said, listen, mate. I went, and all the people that people like Kevin, people that helped me in my career get to where I'd got to, I thanked them personally the night before I announced my retirement. And I rang him and said, thank you so much for everything you've done. And he said, cool. He said, now do you want to become a wrestler? I said, mate. So Dad said, let me sulk. I want to sulk. I want to mourn my career. I want to be sad. He went, okay. He said, but doing that, where's that going to get you? And I was like, yeah, but I just want to sulk. 18 years in the box. I need to sulk. I need to mourn my career. I need to. You want okay? So when you finish sulking, give me a call. So I retired the next day, and I was gutted and this and that. And the next day, so that's the true story. When Dallas opened some doors for me. Yeah. But what I basically say to save that fact is, I did a thing with Mike Costello for the BBC when I retired. He said to me, "No, what's next? You're still a very young man. What's next?" And I threw away a comment. I went, I don't know. Might become a wrestler. I've always liked wrestling. Throw away. And WWE heard the interview. BBC Sport goes obviously all around the world. Yeah. They got it. They approached me. They flew me out to Orlando for a tryout. Had a tryout. They offered me a contract. I said to Dallas, what do you reckon? He said, have you seen what's happening with AEW, All Elite Wrestling, at the moment? So there's a brand new company had just become a thing. And he said, and his like godson, Cody Rhodes, is one of the top guys there. He went, look, mate, he said, do you want to come over and meet him? 100%. So they flew me over to Atlanta. I've met Cody. I fell in love with his vision. And like, they never even had a show at this point. So no one knew how good it was going to be, how bad it was going to be. Like, no one knew anything. Didn't even have a TV deal. And I just fell in love with his vision of what AEW could be. I came back. I met Tony Khan, who's also the owner of Fulham Football Club, and I met him at a Fulham match. He also spoke to me about the vision, and I fell in love. And WWE offered me more money. AEW offered me what was right for me, and I was passionate about that. So it's weird. So within the space of like 2 months of retiring from being a professional boxer, I'd sign a deal with AEW to become a professional wrestler. And then I googled myself to do I'm not a dickhead. I googled myself because I was doing I do a lot of motivational speaking now also. So I had to get some pictures of me from the Olympics. So I Googled Anthony Ogogo, and the next thing that came up was professional wrestler. And I was like, this is so weird. And but yeah, now I'm a professional wrestler with AEW, and no, I say this as a throwaway, but it's 100% real. Like, I have lived one dream, like one childhood dream. My first dream was to represent Great Britain in the Olympic Games and win a medal. I did that. Now there's loads of stuff added to that, but I've lived out a childhood dream. And my other dream, when I was even younger, was that I wanted to become The Rock, because he was the coolest dude in the world, and go and wrestle, and the showbiz and the lights and the sex appeal and stuff. And I'm now getting a chance to do that. I'm genuinely getting a chance to live out a second childhood dream. And not many people walking this earth can live
and
out.
You're still in a ring.
And it's a ring. And it gives me, it ticks a lot of boxes that boxing ticked for me. Doesn't tick other ones, but it ticks even more ones that boxing couldn't tick for me. So it's an amazing opportunity. And I really am thoroughly grateful for the opportunity.
That's amazing. So we're running out of time here. So I just want to sort of ask some sort of general questions about you and about your mindset and how you go about your day and things like this, because I think this is all quite relevant to, you know, what you're doing now. So you had your sulk, which was very short in the grand scheme.
Oh no, I still sulk a bit.
Oh, you still sulk a bit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, like, for example, when Josh was on telly, and I like Joshua, I'm not knocking him, but he's on telly, and that pisses me off, because, like, fucking hell, like, or Callum Smith, like. And this is the bitterness of me coming out. But Callum Smith, he can, like, on the Great Britain team, he was my number 2. Wasn't even close. He lost 10 fights on the spin. I won every fight I was in. He was my reserve boxer. John Ryder, nice kid. He's my sparring partner. John Ryder, Callum Smith, those guys are fighting for the world titles. They're fighting Canelo Alvarez. That was my fight 4 years ago. Those two fought each other for the world title last year. And I was like, how are these two guys fighting for my belt? And that pisses me off. So I do get a bitter sometimes, but I get it out and I go, and I think, do you know what? Fair play to him. Oh, good luck to him. I'm on a whole new journey now. I wish them all the best.
It's interesting how that still sits there. Because again, you know, I look at your mindset and look at the way that you approach things, and you seem very, very positive, but there seems to be like this underlying sort of thing of, and then my question to you would be, what purpose does that serve, right? You know, I don't want to get into it because obviously it's a massive conversation, but I'd always be like, you know, if I just giving you a friendly sort of, I'd be like, yeah, but Anthony, what purpose does that serve? And it's, you know, it's very easy as the throwaway comment for somebody to go, you know, just don't think about it. But it's not that easy, right? Is that you've lived this life and you've been a boxer since a very young age, and you've been around these guys, and then you look at them and they're doing their thing, and you kind of missed your opportunity to do those things because of circumstance. I mean, that's all it is, right? It's circumstance. It's something happened that caused you to get an injury. It could be down to a million things. I mean, you know, I've dealt with athletes over the years with injuries, and there's all sorts. There's the humidity in the room can play a role with as to whether somebody gets injured or somebody doesn't, you know, because it affects the level of hydration. And if the muscles aren't hydrated properly, and there's all manner of factors, right? And these are things that, again, our mutual friend Kevin, I've talked to Kevin about, you know, about all these multifaceted things that could cause an injury. And it's bizarre. It's like this culmination of all these events that all end in this injury of this athlete, whatever it might be. You know, somebody stands on your foot or whatever it might be. And you talked about your Achilles. And for those people who aren't familiar with boxing, who have never boxed, you know, your feet play such a massive role, right? Achilles is like a major injury for a boxer. Everybody be like, yeah, but he's still got his hands. And they don't quite get that. But it's a major injury, your footwork and how you move around the ring, right? So circumstances kind of came in the way, but then circumstances also giving you another opportunity, right? Because if you weren't a professional boxer, I doubt he would have picked up the phone to you, right? You know, I doubt you'd have got those introductions. I doubt you'd have got, you know, the opportunity that you've got right now. You might have done, but through a different channel. Yeah. So out of this almost hardship and this real kick in the teeth that you've experienced, you've got this huge opportunity out of, and you know, your life could change massively, and that might be your thing, right? And that could be your legacy, and that could be the thing that you leave towards. So how does so you wake up in the morning now, and what are your thoughts? Does your mind instantly go towards boxing and what could have been, or does it go to wrestling and what could be?
Yeah, no, 100% the second one, 100%. The reason why So obviously we spoke today a lot about boxing. Just before this chat with you, Phil, I did a chat for Lloyd's Bank on the webcam, and I did a motivational speech kind of thing, and I spoke about the hardships of boxing. So it's kind of like it's in my bones more today than it would be if we did this yesterday. I'd be less, not passionate, less bitter, because it's just in my bones. So it's there.
Yeah,
But no, every single day I wake up and think, how can I get the most out of this day? I haven't debuted yet. I'm debuting early next year, and I want to look $1,000,000, as the Yanks say. So I want to I'm working out hard. I'm training hard. I've got loads to work on. Like, life is. I've never looked back that much in my life. Like, that's what you do when you're old, when you've got your grandkids and they want to hear about you, like granddad growing up. Like, I'm still very much on the mission, and my mission has changed. It went from Olympic gold medal to the world title. Unfortunately, I didn't get either of them because of circumstance. And now the mission's been repackaged and changed into
the
something
mission?
else. The mission now is to become AEW world champion, but also wrestling's a bit weird. Wrestling is different. It's half sport, half entertainment. So I just want to become. Do you know what?
Does that excite you or not? Because obviously you've actually pinpointed a few areas in your life that were as kind of associated to boxing and kind of weren't. But obviously the football, the adoration, the success, the winning, all those different things. So is entertainment? Does that tick the boxes? Does that tick the same boxes? Ultimately, walking out to an arena full of people desperate for you to win and to support you as a boxer. Now you're going out to an arena full of people who want to be entertained, but also maybe rooting for you in your corner for you to win, right? So is it this eclectic and this lovely mix of really what drives Anthony Ogogo and really what you're deep down really looking for? Is it this adoration? Is it this element of, there's all these people rooting for me and I'm going to do this for them as well as myself?
Mate, that's a great question. I think it is. I think wrestling, I said to you earlier, I mean, I think it has the potential to tick a lot of the boxes boxing tick for me. And even one the boxing couldn't take, like the entertainment value, the showmanship, the showbiz, all that kind of stuff. I like that. So I haven't done it yet properly. I've trained my ass off, but I haven't had the opportunity to perform yet in front of fans because of COVID and the fact I haven't debuted yet. But I think it's going to be an amazing juncture for me. What I want more than anything right now, and it sounds really cheesy, I just want to be happy. I've had a number of years where I've looked back and gone, fucking hell, like, I hope next year ain't as bad as this year. I've had quite a few of them. And now I just want to be like, you know what? Like, whatever happens, I just want to be happy. I want to enjoy my career. I want to move on with my personal life and hopefully begin having family with my wife. And I just want to be happy. I just want to be, and that sounds really silly. And I think that really is a true measure of success. Like, just being happy with what one does on a day-to-day basis and what they give to the world. So I've got a lot of fight left in me. I've got a lot of things yet to achieve. I mentioned it earlier. I do want to be that Forrest Gump guy. I had over 350 fights as an amateur. I won 320 of them probably. I lost a handful of fights in a long storied career. I've won medals all around the world. I think it's fair to say I've dominated boxing, although it ended unfortunately.
You mentioned the word. I've mentioned it. You've mentioned it. We talked about legacies, right? Is that anybody I speak to about you, that's in boxing, right? Because ultimately boxing is either one of them sports that you either know people in it and you know their background, you know their history, or you don't, right? Boxing's like that. People could name all the top boxers who are getting huge PR and blah blah blah, but everybody I speak to in boxing about you knows about you and your legacy. And the legacy's there, whether you think it got finished or it didn't. You probably look at that as an unfinished business, right? You will probably, you'll never get opportunities to finish the way you wanted to finish it. But I speak to anybody about you in the world of boxing, and they have this huge amount of respect for the legacy that you left. And they all look at your opportunities, and they also look at the things that you encountered, like the injuries, which are, nobody ever plans an injury. Nobody, you haven't been out being an idiot and you didn't get an injury partying or doing anything. You got an injury doing your sport. And I think everybody that looks back at you and your career looks at that and goes, he just got an injury. Phenomenal boxer. everything speaks for itself, which, you defined earlier on when we talked about the difference between individual and team sports, is that your record speaks for itself. To me, I look at your record and I'm like, wow, phenomenal. Got an injury, not his fault. And that's life, right? And it's very easy for me to look at it in that way and give it this kind of brush over and go, but there isn't a person in boxing that I've spoke to that is into boxing and knows boxing that doesn't speak very, very highly of you in your career. So do you realize that? Do you appreciate that?
No, I think I don't actually. I really appreciate you saying that, Phil, because I don't, because I look back on and that's probably the drive in me. I think it's some of a poison chalice. It's a blessing and a curse. Like, they're driving me to want to be so successful and look back on what I didn't achieve rather than what I did achieve. And I think it's an age thing. It's a wisdom thing. Like, the older one gets in their life, they can look back more fondly because they've got more separation from that like sad point in their life. So I look like
what could have been versus the what was, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like, I couldn't tell you where my Olympic medal was for years because I look back on it so much bitterness. And like you said, we didn't. There's a whole conversation about that, and hopefully we can one day like delve deeper into that. But now it's like, do you know what? Everything what I achieved under the duress I was under, physical, mental, emotional, like, yeah, do you know what? Well done, Ogogo. You did well there, mate, because I had it real tough. And then to come, even to go to Stratford as in the Olympics when I wanted to pull out, that was a win, just turning up. And the fact I got a medal and a really, really difficult draw. Yes, it wasn't the gold medal. I didn't get that moment. I think what I'm yearning for that moment. Like, I always thought that moment would be on the podium. God save the Queen, the tears down my face, the giving it one of them with the flower, with the gold medal.
I can still picture that happening just without an Olympic gold medal.
Yeah,
the God save the Queen, the whole flurry of it all, and to me, it's like you've got an opportunity for that to happen again. It's just in a different guise. It's in a different format. Yeah. It's slightly, ultimately there's a lot of athletes out there who don't, and remarkably just don't give a hoot about an Olympic gold. They're actually all about winning something else, right? Different sports, right, that aren't maybe related to the Olympics, and all of a sudden they appear in the Olympics. They're a little bit, for somebody to be the world heavyweight boxing champion of the world is probably more important to a lot of boxers, young boxers, than it is to be Olympic gold medal champion, right? Yeah. Because it's a different definition of kind of the same thing, right? But like I said, I mean, I know we're very tight with time now, but again, from my perspective, all of the people that I've talked to that respect boxing, respect what you've done and what you've achieved throughout your career. And I just need to get that across because I think that's a really important thing. And I think for you to hear that from external parties, I think is just a reiteration of maybe something where you maybe beat yourself up a little bit about stuff that just happened, right?
Yeah.
But you've got this, 2019 All Elite Wrestling, you're their first developmental wrestler. Is that the correct term? Yeah. First developmental wrestler. So they're basically nurturing you to be this wrestler and be this persona. And I think, you've very much got that persona. I think you've got an incredible sort of character and, that positivity comes across in amongst that little bit of sulk now and again. Which I think is good. It adds character to it.
I think it's good. And you said earlier, you asked a question but didn't ask the question, like, what does it do for you? But it does. Like, for me, like, everyone, we're all very individual and unique. But for me, I have the ump, and I've got a little gym in my garage that I built at the beginning of lockdown. So I'll get pissed off. I'll go and bench. I'll get pissed off. I'll go and do some deadlift. Then I'll leave and I feel good. So I do use it in the right way. I'll do channel that.
It's how people thrive, right? So it's fuel to the fire for you, right? Whereas I think that's really important and incredible point, right? Is that people have different fuels to different fires, right? And although someone might sound really resentful and really negative at times, I think for some people that really, I can define my career. I just don't talk about those elements, but they sit there in the back of my mind. I just don't vocalize them very much, but those are the things and the key drivers towards things, right? And I think probably because you won't get asked the question a lot, right? I've came on here and I've asked you that question. I've asked you about your career. I've asked you about the ups, the downs, and blah, blah, blah. And you can't really talk about it without going back to that moment where this is how that made me feel, because ultimately that's how it did make you feel, and that's totally understandable, I think. You know, so let's finish on a little kind of bit about how does your day pan out. So right now you said you're training, so you're back to training. Yep. You're doing a lot of training. I know that. You know, you're putting in the hours, you're putting in the graft. Tell me a little bit about wrestling. What, you know, when you're in the US and you do your wrestling, what's that? Are you in the ring for hours and hours a day doing your wrestling stuff?
It's hard, mate. It's really hard. It really is physically hard. When these people win like world championships and they're crying floods of tears, and people think the non-believers will go, yeah, but that's fake. Why is he so upset? Because it's hard. Like to start and to get good. Oh my goodness, what you've got to learn. It's like the technique is so difficult. Like all the technical stuff is very difficult. It's physically very like hard and damaging on your body.
A lot of impact, a lot of learning how to handle impact, right?
Yeah, and it's all learning how to keep it cool. Like you're getting chopped or slammed on the floor, and you're thinking, you just want to chin him.
And you want to give him a right hook.
Yeah, you knock him out, but you can't. But it's, you know, it's fun. It's one of those weird things where it's really, if it hurts, like you know about it, and it's something that's so unique. The fact that I've boxed my entire life. I used to train usually 20 rounds a session, so an hour of punching a session with a warm up, with a cool down, with some groundwork. Usually do 23-minute rounds of actual punching, and that's hard. And most people couldn't even think of doing it. They don't actually doing it. But wrestling, it's not hard in the same. It's nowhere near as intense, but it's really hard. It's weird. It's hard. But I'll go to the wrestling school. I'm there from 5 p.m. I'll leave at midnight some days, and there's a lot of watching. There's a lot of studying. When you're in there taking the bashes and the bumps, it's impactful and it does hurt. But it's fun also. It's a really odd, weird, fun industry.
Is it a bit like a team sport? Because obviously there's these camps, there's all these other wrestlers. Is there a lot of camaraderie? Is there a lot? Is it very different to boxing? Because obviously boxing is a very solitary sport. Apart from, you know, you have a camp, you have your people you spar against, but ultimately you get in the ring with these people and you're actually beating them up, right?
Yeah, that's a great question, Phil. I have to think about that. Boxing is I never really had a gym, so I'm the wrong person to really talk to. Most boxers go to a gym and they train with a camp. I'd never really had that. I had my coach that I followed around the country, so I never really had like a base, which is something I actually regret now. That's a whole different thing. So you do get quite in a team ethos. Obviously, you're in different weight categories in the pros versus. So you do get a real nice team ethos. So you're never going to fight each other. You spar each other. You become really close. I never had that. I was always like the lion that walked alone. I didn't really mix with many people. I was focused on the job and I worked hard and I went wherever my coach went, I went. So I'm getting more of a camaraderie now in wrestling than I ever got in boxing. Although it's very competitive, it's everybody wants that spot. Like everyone wants to be the world champ, and it's very competitive. And they want, because the world champ, they get more TV time, they sell more merch, they get more money, more follow-on opportunities opens to them. You know, when The Rock was wrestling, Rock, Stone Cold, Undertaker, Triple H, they all wanted to be the main guy. They wanted to be like big shark in a tank full of sharks, and it's a similar aspect really, but good camaraderie, and there's a lot of trust and respect. There's more respect in wrestling than anywhere else I've been in my life, because I'm wrestling somebody, I'm training with somebody or wrestling them, they're going to do some real insane moves on me, and I've got to have trust in him to be able to perform them safely so I don't break my neck and die, and vice versa. So whether you like each other or not doesn't really matter. But again, like I said to our talk earlier, I mean, when you're a professional something, you give it your all. Like whether you know, if you're a professional baker, in my opinion, professional banker, a coach, a wrestler, a boxer, that's your profession. So respect yourself enough and respect the craft to give it your all, you know, and that's what I've always done. And yeah, so it's big on respect wrestling, but hard work, lots of lifting weights, lots of wrestling. I try to get some cardio in also. The diet, people say to me, must be nice to eat anything you want now. And as you know full well, Bill, not really, because I spent my entire life making 11 stone 6, 72 kilos.
And again, just a bit of context, how heavy are you now?
Well, I'm trying to get down to 16 stone. So I'm at 16.4 at the minute, and I want to be about 15.10.
You're about 5 stones heavier than you were when you boxed, right?
Yeah, and
Crazy,
but
man.
naturally, like I mean, like my walk around weight was always 90 odd kilos, like box 72. So the reason why I got injured quite a lot is because I used to lose a lot of weight, and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, you mentioned earlier, like muscles weren't hydrated, and then the eye was just shit luck on the end of a lot of shit luck. But yeah, so it's tough, but it's fun and it's very rewarding, and I just look forward to kind of getting in there, doing it on TV each week. And the biggest thing for me is I'm not a great example to use because I was injured quite a lot. So I had like long spells in my career where I didn't box because of the
Yeah.
injuries. But even if you do box like 4 or 5 times a year on the way up, then once or twice a year when you're world champ, that's very sporadic. Like what I'm looking forward to in wrestling is each week I'm out there in front of the fans, feeling that energy, that crowd, the buzz, that adulation. Or if I'm a bad guy, which I think I'm going to be a bad guy, that the booing, the cheer, the sneering, the spitting.
Okay, so you don't get to call it. You don't go, I'm going to be a good guy.
I'd
You want to be
rather
the
like
bad guy.
yeah, I think I'm a much better bad guy. Particularly
Yeah.
there, divvy Americans do my head in. So I'm just like the typical foreign heel where I'm just. But no, I think I'll be a bad guy. But I think I can. And they always say in wrestling, they always say the best characters are the ones that they basically portray themselves. They just amp it up more.
Yeah.
And like my mum like raised me to be very respectful and to be a good kid. And I'm a good person. I'm a nice person. So I could be a good guy, and I'll just kind of like an actor. They delve into their goodness. Or you know, and some bad guys like Denzel Washington, when he's thingy bobbing in Training Day, he's a prick. He's delving into all his badness and bringing that to the surface, and he's performing as a bad guy. So wrestling's the same. Like you're a character, and you perform that character to the best of your ability, and you draw on your own natural like instincts. And I've got a lot to be bitter about. I'm pissed off about. So if I'm a bad guy,
You just
I'll
bring all
just
that
be
to the
that guy.
surface.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So.
Hey, look, we're all about performance. You know, this is what this is what the podcast's about. It's about human performance. It's about how that all transpires. So you're certainly moving into different routes of performance, and how do you perform as a human being in those realms. There's so much more we could get into here, and I'm sure we could go off in multiple tangents. I mean, to even bypass kind of the Olympic experience, I think is tantamount to kind of what your story is and how much there is there to tell. But thank you once again for sharing. I know that you've got, we're up against time a little bit here. One final question. Have you got a name yet?
Yeah, so I'm obviously going to be my name, Anthony Ogogo, but I'm pushing for this. And if they say
Are you allowed
no,
to say this?
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to be the governor. The governor. The
Very
governor of
British.
AEW. Yeah.
Very British.
They gave me some, they said about music. So I'm not going to debut soon. So we've got my music sorted out now. And they said, what about this? And I was like, no. Like it was basically Apollo Creed in Rocky, like really American, like really big and bells and American. Like, listen, mate, if you're bringing me in, I'm gonna be British. I'm gonna be me, and I
want Chaz and Dave.
Yeah. So I said to him, look, I said, I love Peaky Blinders. That's kind of like my style anyway. Yeah. I wear the hat, I wear the coat. That's gonna be my hard style. An hard man, Peaky Blinders. So go and make something like that. And they came back with a real nice beat. So I'm looking forward to dropping that when I make my entrance for the first time.
Amazing. And you are looking very dapper in your threads for you're doing a lot of commentating right now. And
thank you,
by
mate.
the looks of it looks like you're really enjoying it.
Yeah, do you know, I am actually enjoying it. It's fun. It's nice. It's just nice to be performing again. And I missed that. Like my last fight was 2016. I only had 12 or 13 fights as a pro. I don't even know. Maybe 12 fights as a pro. And then that was over 7 years. So I just missed, and I want an arena. I want to perform. I'm like a gladiator. I want to fight. I want an arena. I want to perform. So it's nice to kind of go out there and
you've got that again, right?
Yeah, and I do feel like rejuvenated massively because I've been a shell of myself the last few years because I've had my identity just ripped from me, and now I'm kind of feel like I'm getting the old me back, which I'm really happy about.
Good. And I'm sure many people will be happy about that because I'm sure, all the boxing fans who followed your career and know what that character's about, and know how you push, I think will be following you avidly through your new career. So we will close quite simply with a best of luck with it all.
Thanks,
I'm not a
mate.
massive fan of luck. I'm not a big believer in luck. I think you make your own luck. And I think that, you know, you've opened a lot of channels throughout your career, despite those things that we might put down to luck, have not quite going your way. I think you've opened some really good channels. And I hope this new channel for yours is as fulfilling as I think probably the last one was in many respects. And best of luck with everything. So
cheers, man.
hopefully we can resume this conversation another time.
Yeah.
We'll get into the Olympics and things like this.
Thank God. And before I go, Matt, I just want to say to you, hand on my heart, a massive thank you. We met early this year at the very beginning of lockdown, and I'll say what a massive, you know, you've been amazing with me. I'm really, really thankful for Kevin putting me and you in touch. You've been, honestly, there's been some days I've sulked a little bit and I've texted you and you've given me like a little kick up the ass, and that's exactly what I've needed. And just, yeah, mate, you said it earlier, oftentimes people haven't always told me the truth, or a lot, I don't have a lot of yes men in my life, but I don't have a lot of people in my life to tell me, oh, you've been a prick, don't be a dick. And not saying you have done that, but I know you are the kind of person to do that. And I need those people. So thank you so much, Phil. I really, really appreciate having you in my life.
My pleasure. Cool. Right. Well, good luck with everything, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Take care, mate. Thank you. You too.